So to start off this week's module, I want to make some changes to the product search. So we implemented this last week and got it all up and running, but it feels a little, I don't know, not user-friendly. It's kind of bare and it's a grid of text. So I wanted to try to make this a more usable, functional, more almost warm and fuzzy, quote unquote, type of feel to the application. So I thought by doing that, we could incorporate some graphics and do some work from that perspective of making this more of a feel like you would have if you were browsing a web page where you have a graphic and some nicely formatted text. So how do we go about doing that? How do we change out this data grid that we have now and turn it into something that's more aesthetically pleasing but yet still provides the functionality that we need? So that'll be the goal for this week. So we'll start by kind of constructing and deconstructing what we have. So the goal here is to take away this data grid view and then have essentially a grid or rows of elements that represent each product that we have. So prior to starting this video, I went ahead and went into my products table and I went ahead and loaded some graphics into the table. And I'll provide a resource that helps you kind of understand how to load those pictures into a table. But I went ahead and loaded some pictures of different balls into the table. So we've got those in place. I've also went ahead and updated my model for product, and I added an additional property for picture. And that data from the products table, this is stored as a var binary. So I'll show you that real fast. So we have picture, which is a var binary max, and that's holding our actual image data, and that gets translated into a byte array within our model. So that change has been updated, as well as within our inventory utility. I went ahead and updated the build product method that takes in our SQL data reader and generates our product. So you'll see now, as I kind of broke this into two segments, I'm first pulling all of the static text out, and then I do a check here. And the reason I do the check is that the design element of this table, I'm allowing nulls in this picture field. So what I need to do in my inventory utilities, I need to check to see if the value of the picture column is null, and that's done by using this type of an if statement, saying the reader value, so reader square bracket picture is db null. So if it's not db null, then I take the reader picture and I convert that, or do a cast, into a byte array, and I store that inside of picture. So that is how I'm pulling the picture data out of the model or out of the database and into my model. So I went ahead and did all of that up front so we didn't have to watch me write code. So we have a picture property now that's a byte array, and let's go ahead and start talking about how do we take out this data grid view and create something usable. So the first piece that we're going to do is we're going to utilize what are called user controls. So under my product forms, I'm going to right click. I'm actually going to first create a folder for user controls. And again, this is just for keeping things organized. Right click again, add, and then I'm going to choose user control from the add menu. And basically what a user control is it's like a mini form that doesn't have any Chrome, doesn't have a header or border around it. It's just an element that you would lay on a page. And these are composite, so we can bring other controls in to actually create this user control. So we'll go ahead and we'll call this our product user control. We'll hit enter. And you'll see here it kind of brings up this almost form looking area. So inside of here we can drop controls from our toolbox. And what I want to do is I want to choose a few different elements. So I want to have that graphical feel. So I'm going to start by using a picture box. And I'm going to drop that here in the corner. And we'll try to make it somewhat square. And then we'll want to use a series of different labels. So we'll start out with maybe a larger label here. And that will show us the product name itself. Let's go ahead and pull up the Server Explorer and just kind of look at what properties we have. So we have the name, we have a UPC code, a description, and a unit price. So those are probably the elements that we'll want to show. UPC code maybe not so much, but we'll definitely want the name, the description, and the unit price. We'll need 3 labels. So we'll go ahead and bring up label 2 for now and just drop it there. and label 3. Alright, so we've got our 3 labels now. Let's go ahead and do some quick alignments for those 3 labels. Make sure that they're all square to one another. There we go. Alright, and so we'll start with the first label and we'll give it a name. We'll call it LBL name, and the default text inside of it will be a blank. And let's make some changes to the font size. Actually, let's go ahead and put that text back in there just so we have kind of a sample name to scale off of. And we'll adjust the font size to be, let's go with 14. That looks pretty good. Maybe we'll go a little higher, go to 18. So that'll be the sample. And then we'll go to label 2 and we'll call this LBL description. And we can set the font size, we can leave it at 8.25. We'll go ahead and clear that text value there. And then the third label, we'll go ahead and we'll call it LBL unit price. And we'll make that font size a little bit bigger, maybe a 10 point. And we'll align that to the bottom of the image. So this is a little too big. We'll go ahead and kind of tuck this up to make sure it's just the right size. And that is the basics of our user control. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that text. And we'll get rid of this text as well. Alright, so we've got that in place. And now with the user control, we can actually wire up event handlers just as we would with any of our objects. So this user control we can double click on and we'll actually get a product user control underscore load event. And from here we can use the data from our product to actually populate this form. Now we have a few pieces here that we need to also adjust. The first thing we'll want to do is we'll want to add a constructor. So we'll say public product user control, and we'll want to take in a product, and this product will be for us to actually populate our form with. So from here we can do things like we can create a private, and then that's a place that we can store this product that's being passed into our constructor. We'll also want to call the constructor above that, so we'll use the colon this, so that way when this constructor is called, it'll also call this constructor here and do the initialize components. Very important. So then once we're at the point of loading the control, we'll want to just go through and populate our labels. So we'll populate underscore product text.name, LBL description, text equals underscore product text.description, and LBL unit price dot text, so we're going to store those in the text property, equals, and then we'll do a string.format, and this is a currency, so we'll use that currency formatter, which is curly bracket 0:C, close curly bracket, and then we'll use underscore product dot unit price. So that will allow us to then populate that user control with that bit of data. So that'll get us started with what we're needing to do. From there, we will then be able to, in our next video, we'll go ahead and set up the graphic part or the picture part of this control.